And that gives me such hope, because Newarkers everywhere, inside our city and outside of our city, are starting to take responsibility of their government and believe that Newark City Hall can begin to reflect the best of our values. This is our calling, and I believe with the team we have, is also our destiny. Thank you. Now, I was told to answer some questions, so I don't know how much time we have. I probably left time for one question. Are we answering?
Oh, okay. Well, why don't you, if
there's 2 or 3 questions, I will answer them succinctly and shortly. Not. But go ahead. Yes.
I don't know if you already set up or not, but
I'll repeat the question for those who can't hear it, so go ahead.
yes, my question is in regards to education. It would be, you have a child, I'm going to give you a scenario, you know, to explain it more, but you have a child who grows up in the Newark public school system. You know, their parents are not legal residents. They graduate, and then when they want to attend a school here, they can. They pay out-of-state tuition. You know, that's something that's a huge concern for the Latino community.
Okay. So I thought you were going to the public education on the grade school level, which I might have a little more influence over. But that brings in a whole group of issues, but I'm going to use it to pivot to something that you made me think of originally, which is a great way politicians sidestep questions. No accountability in this audience whatsoever. But I agree with you. I'm concerned overall that what we are doing by this myopic view of immigrants in our country is this nation is strong, thriving, the industrial world that we have, and so many things are benefiting from the fact that we opened up schools to immigrants who are often some of our best leaders of the future. The one thing I want to go to is in my conversation yesterday. Every day I've got like 20, 30 meetings, they're all so instructive, is my conversation with the new superintendent. He says, how can we have schools that have not made adequate yearly progress in the city of Newark for 7, 8, 9 years, and there's been nobody holding them accountable? So that the children graduating from them, at best, are chained to mediocrity, but the majority are failing. So they get to the point where they're graduating from high schools and they're considered honor students with getting A's, but they go, if you talk to Zach Yamba, that he says that they have to put them in remedial classes. And that's because, again, government, schools, housing authority, city, is not holding people to higher levels of accountability. And this is why I love the kind of systems that I hope Michelle talks about, that we're learning to put in new forced accountability. And our new superintendent has some great ways that they're going to start holding schools accountable. If you're not performing, those kids can have other options of where to go to. 2 more questions really quick. And Toilo, is that your phone keeping going on?
it's very busy.
She's trying to teach me concentration here. Any other questions at all?
I have one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we'll go on the back.
Yeah.
I'm always afraid when a PhD begins to ask me a question.
No.
Go ahead.
You make a very powerful point about the importance of values and a sense of participation and ownership of the whole system by people in general. But you don't say much about the politics of it. And I'd like to just hear you talk a little bit about, you know, what is it like dealing with the city council, for example? And all of these issues ultimately go back to resource allocation, decision-making about changes and reforms and hiring policies. And there's a lot of politics, I would assume, in that. How do you deal with that?
So it's easy to deal with it if the politician you're dealing with has a reflection of your own values.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the easy times for me.
Right.
The hard time is when that other politician doesn't share your values and is asking you to do things that don't reflect your values. In other words, give me this, creates a very transactional political situation where I want X, Y, and Z, which might not be the highest use of those resources or money, but you know you got to do that if you want to get that other value that other end you're trying to achieve. And so these are the thorny things of politics all the time.
So who wins?
That is a very good question. And how does that dynamic play out? And frankly, it often plays out away from the public eye. And I talked to a high-level executive in this state, who I won't tell you is in charge of running a very big government body, and he was pulling out the little bit of hair he had left, saying that the kind of unholy deals people are always asking this person to make in politics. So it's a daily, very difficult conversation to have, and I mean this daily. Now I'm very fortunate because I have a city council that is pretty good. Even, you know, I learned the hard lesson. One of the biggest mistakes I've made since I've been in City Hall, I have to say, especially when I first came in, to assume that anybody who fought against me in my previous elections was corrupt. Well, the reality is, the overall majority of them were not. And even, and I was telling, and I'll be frank with this, even though I know it's being recorded, look, when Charlie Bell was running for office, I fought virulently against him, if anybody follows Newark politics. But he's getting in there, and he's proven actually to be a pretty darn good council person. And if I presume somebody's going to work in some way, then sometimes they end up performing in the way you think. But we're dealing with him in a great way. So Bob, again, these are the things I haven't figured out, guys. I'm still trying to figure out how to work in a political context and keep my soul and still accomplish good things for the community. And you're saying this to Paula, who I've read some of her law journal articles and things like that. Look, I think New Jersey government is really screwed up. And I think the reason why we're not changing it is because we have problems. How can we have one Berlin and have two Princetons? I don't understand how I could grow up in Bergen County where we have 2 square mile towns, or at least I couldn't understand. And we have 2 square mile towns, but we each all have our own new shiny firehouse, we each hire our own consultants, we each all have our insurance broker and all that. But now I'm starting to get it. These are very powerful interest groups that we may be able to organize things a lot better. They have more fire engines in Bergen County than they do in the entire island of Manhattan. That there's ways to do it. And so there's some people now trying to stand up and challenge this. And I'll have to tell you, my staff gets upset because I go out too far too soon. But I'll go out too far too soon right now. Michelle, don't throw your shoe at me. You know, Newark is starting to evaluate why we're doing things. So give me one example, which we haven't done the analysis yet, but I bet you when we do the analysis, it'll be very compelling. We have to respond to every fire in Irvington. We do. It's mutual aid. If you look at the town of Irvington, it fits nicely into Newark. So we're responding to all their fires anyway. Sometimes we engage, sometimes we don't. And our question my fire director asks is, why don't we just do their fire services for them? They could save money on their side, we could save money on our side. But they're going to be, and I'm going to do the analysis, because our city can't pay for its government anymore. Announcement tonight, Newark cannot afford a government. The thing is, we're not alone. Most governments in New Jersey can't afford it anymore. If you project out pension costs, if you project out healthcare increasing costs, we're going to price ourselves out, I'd say, the next decade. We're already bankrupt. State government, local government, you name it. We're going to have to start making tough decisions like this. But I know if I came out today and made the formal announcement, I believe, and I'm not saying this, I haven't done the analysis, that Newark should do the fire services for Maplewood and Irvington and so on and so forth. I would have people marching in here against me. And they wouldn't just be the firefighters union, they would be the lawyers that are representing those unions, because that's a good stream of resources, and I can go on and on and on. So this is often not reflective of, to me, the highest values of New Jersey, and something we all have to start talking about and dealing with. But it's a battle I'm about to take on probably after my budget is done this year. I'm going to start talking about it a lot louder. There's a gentleman in the back.